when we say mother, that's just our identity. Like when we have a child, we become a mother, just like you might be a sister or a friend. It's just a label put on us. Mothering is the act of the caregiving. So that is in the early stages, getting up in the middle of the night, feeding your child, the mental load. That is mothering. It's the act of taking care of our children.
Yep.
Motherhood is something we don't actually have control over. So I want you to imagine when you became a mother and you were doing your mothering, you entered into a tank, right? Let's imagine motherhood as a tank. It's a tank of water. And we all entered motherhood at a different stage. And in the middle of the tank, I want you to imagine that's where all the support is. So we could call it financial or healthcare or education, all of these things. If you enter motherhood closer to all of that support, then you are more likely to have a more positive experience.
Yeah.
If you enter motherhood further away from that support, then of course it's going to be hard. But neither are your fault, and you don't have control over either of them. So like if you look at me, for example, someone might look at me and go, she's a white, educated Irish woman. She's really privileged. What does she have to complain about, right? But
A lot,
right? But we know when I became a mother, which we may get into in more detail, I struggled so much with my mental health that I checked myself into a psychiatric hospital for 2 months when my baby was 10 months old. Yeah. So I had privilege and I had lack of privilege.
Yeah.
It's not black and white.
No, but life's not. And
life's not.
Look, me and Tom were literally the prime example of that, because from the outside, I always get judged on this. You know, I said we had the perfect life, you know, even like Tom was a pop star. Yeah. I was a wife. I did Instagram. I had my own business. I've always worked, but I had a very lovely life. I got to experience the most amazing, incredible things that you could experience. I had a little girl, perfect little girl that came into the world, followed by a son who when we found out at 16, 20 weeks that we was having a little boy, I was like, this is perfect. Look what happened to us.
Yeah.
And this can happen to anyone. Like anything can happen at any time. And that's like the whole thing of the world. Live each day, enjoy each day, and take every moment you can from life, because look what happened to us.
Perfect doesn't exist.
No.
And also, like, even listening to your story there, I think, and this might sound so basic, but I think we have forgotten the fact that the only thing guaranteed in life is we're born and we die.
Yeah. But people don't like talking about it.
But we don't talk about it, particularly if you're Irish. Oh my goodness, don't talk about anything like that.
Yeah, but I feel like the Irish celebrate death a lot better than us.
We do it really well.
You celebrate really well, and it is a celebration. Here it's like, right, they're dying, they're dead, they're gone. That's it. Yeah. We can't talk about it.
We do
Get
death.
Me in my black. Oh, I'm in it today.
We do it well. We do celebrate, and it's quite quick. So, like, we have funerals 3 days after someone dies. Yeah, it's really quick. But it's funny because, well, it's not funny at all, but we know this. We all know this. But yet,
we can't accept it.
I don't know if it's the acceptance, or even if you take motherhood out of it, we get caught up in life. And we start worrying about things that are largely outside of our control. Actually, most things in life we have no control over. But we use so much of our time and energy trying to control it. Like, what does somebody else think about me? Doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter.
No.
We can't control it.
But we do care, don't we?
But we do care. But, like, I always talk about this in terms of our reserves. First of all, the word self-care is banned. I absolutely hate it when it comes to motherhood. It is banned because it suggests that a little bubble bath, bit of yoga, bit of deep breathing is going to solve our problems in motherhood. It won't.
No.
So
I don't even do any of that anyway.
No, it doesn't. And I think, you know what, as women...
What do you think then? What word would you use?
I use reserves. So I think of it like we all have reserves.
Yeah. So get rid of the self-care bullshit.
Get rid of that bullshit, because it is. And I know this from experience, as someone who literally was in a psychiatric hospital. I was told, get out for fresh air, do a bit of yoga, do a bit of deep breathing. I'm not saying they don't work. They didn't work for me. And it wasn't until
again, with you, it's like you're in the depths of the darkness. Like, if someone said to me when I was going through that with Tom, do a bit of yoga and deep breathing.
Yeah, run.
I would have literally been like...
Like,
I'm putting my fingers up now, people. I would literally be like, fuck off.
yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, I'm actually, like, the breath is so shallow. I could do with some deep breathing, but I'm just literally just fighting every day.
And I wonder, I know we're jumping around it, but is it a cultural thing? Because I work with a lot of American women. And there's something about, I think, growing up in Ireland and the UK, we're not good at sitting in the darkness.
No.
Like, we're not good with, sometimes you just have to sit in it, and it's awful, and it's shit, and it hurts. But the only way out of it is to sit in it and know that it will eventually pass. Whereas I think Americans are quite good with that. They're like, oh, I'm really sad.
Yeah.
This isn't good.
Whereas I feel like in America, they all have therapists. That's probably why.
Probably. Whereas we, I think, grew up, you don't talk about your emotions because you're complaining.
We don't talk about a lot, do we?
No.
Don't talk about death. We don't talk about the struggles. We
don't tell mothers how hard motherhood can be.
Even for me, people say to me, oh my God, you're an inspiration. You're this. I'm like, I'm just sharing with you. I'm literally sharing my experience with you all. So you can see how I'm living with grief, life, kids, like me. Do you know what I mean? It's just me sharing. But it's like, you're an inspiration. It's like, I'm not an inspiration. I don't know. Do you know what I mean by that?
I think what it is it's
Laura, tell me what it is. What is it?
I think, and I hear this a lot from my clients and mums, that I think it's back to that piece of, because we're inundated with social media. I think social media is the most damaging thing, particularly for maternal mental health. I even took a detox from it recently. We are bombarded with perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. It's a myth. None of us have a perfect life. And I think what that does is, if we're in a situation that we're not happy with or we're not sure of, we can't accept it. We're going, well, someone else is doing it better or has it easier. You and I both know that's not always the reality. Like, social media is a very filtered moment in time.
Insta versus reality all day long.
Yeah, and I think it is that narrative that life is supposed to feel good and amazing, but actually life is the messiest thing there is.
But also, do you know how I feel? I feel like that about Christmas.
Yeah. Oh,
like, I feel, and we really are jumping around, but I feel like you're meant to have this feeling of Christmas, and I don't feel it. Maybe I am the Grinch. Maybe I need the Who's to come and help me.
It's the pressure.
But it's the pressure, the running around, the work, especially now for me. Like, work is everything. I have to, you know, work. I have to support my kids. I have to keep a roof over their heads. I have to take every single job that comes in because I'm like, they need to be fed at Christmas. But people that have this feeling of going, oh, it's so wonderful. I guess, you know, from losing Tom as well, I don't feel like that about Christmas. But I guess motherhood can be painted the same way. You think you're going to have this feeling because you see people online going like, oh my God, my baby. But you're like, your baby poos, it's going to sick on you. It's not going to sleep. It's really hard. But I think with me, my mum is quite like real. Diane is real. And she said to me, being a mum will be the toughest job you ever do, Kelsey.
It is so
and
tough.
She said, it's relentless and it will go on. You will worry. She said, I still worry about you. Look what I've had to go through with you. Like, the worry never stops. She still worries about my older brother who's in his 40s. Like, you never stop worrying about your children. The job never ends.
Yeah.
But it's the same feeling of that Christmas. It's like people think, and I think that's why people get the postpartum anxiety and stuff, because it's you look on Instagram and you're painting these pictures. And I guess that's what people saw from my Instagram when Bodhi was born, that their dad was laid there with no hair, really thin, and had a brain tumour. So it was like, this is actually the reality of what we're living. And it's not that glamorous life with a newborn going, this is so perfect. Look at us. Yeah. Can we do a black and white photo shoot?
Life came at you, and it came at you hard. And like, you know, thinking back to my personal experience and kind of
let's talk more about your personal experience. What happened?
It's exactly what you're saying. I mean, I became a mum 8 years ago. Everything, as you're saying there, I heard about motherhood, best time of your life. I was told, you know, your baby will be born, you'll get this feeling. And I remember my baby being handed to me, little Leo, and I was like, I don't have the feeling. I actually feel scared and anxious, and okay, I must be a terrible mother. So the inner dialogue started. You're doing it wrong. Oh, breast is best. You must breastfeed. Absolute nonsense. You can come for me. Whatever you think is best for you is best for your baby. couldn't do that. So, oh, you're doing it wrong, Laura.
But it's not even that. And I think we're so lacking on all the support now on that. The village, the people to come round. Like, my mum literally came and got my boob and got it in the baby's mouth and was like, come on, Kelsey, you can do it. I was like, oh, mum. But
do you know in Germany, they recognise how vulnerable women are in those early weeks. And they have done research that shows if they invest in their health, their overall medical bill for life goes down. So they send, we're all moving to Germany, by the way.
Yeah, let's go.
They send a midwife or a doula into your home, I think for up to 6 weeks for a couple of hours a day.
People need it.
Like,
we need it.
What did we get? Here's your baby and a 6-week checkup. But, you know, back to my story.
Even with the 6-week checkup.
Contraception. Sorry, like, I'm sorry. That's the least
I was on blood pressure tablets and I took myself off after 2 days because I was like, I feel like a zombie. Went 6 weeks later and they were like, oh, you have the tablets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took myself off 2 days after you gave them to me because I actually could not function as a human. And you expected me to go back and look after another human that I'd never looked after before in my life.
It's so sad. And
anyway, Laura, back to you.
But back to my story. And like, by the way, I talk about this so openly now because at the time I felt like I was the only mother in the world. Like, I can only describe the feeling of waking up every day and like it was just this absolute dread. You know the feeling you get when something really bad's about to happen? I had that all the time. And all I was seeing was motherhood's the best time of your life. All these mothers enjoying it. And I was like, there's something deeply wrong with you, Laura. You're a terrible mother. No. And I was screaming for help. You know, at the time I was studying for a master's in psychology. I was volunteering with a mental health charity in Ireland. So I
think you had a lot on.
I was this was prior to having a baby, but like I was best placed to get support for your mental health. And I couldn't get it. And I was screaming and screaming up to the point eventually when he was 10 months old, I was like, you know, I wouldn't say I was having suicidal thoughts because that's a big thing to say, but definitely the thought of, you know, and I've spoken about this a lot, it might be easier if I could just disappear for a few years and come back or like go to sleep for a few months. And that was scaring me because the logic was slipping. And we know this, like suicide is the leading cause of maternal death. We know this. And when he was 10 months old, I rang my best friend. It was a very tough phone call.
But also, I don't think you're the only person that's had thoughts like that. You could just think, can I just come back in like 6 years and you be able to be potty trained? Like, you're just clean and you can do what you want. You won't be wet in the bed. You won't be getting up in the night. I might have slept through for... It's hard.
It's hard. And we need to normalise those thoughts because if you're feeling that as a mum... It's not you wanting to die. No. It's you recognising this is really hard.
Even when the babies were like babies, even them irrational thoughts that go through your head that you're like, what if I just walked down, the baby hit its head on the wall? Like when I'm walking through, like, why am I going to knock the baby's head out of the door frame? But
because you care so much.
You have these thoughts. You're like, what if the baby just rolled off the bed? The baby can't roll. But what if the baby just fell off the bed now? Or what if this happened? Or is it going to breathe during the night? Like, we all have them thoughts.
We all have those thoughts. And
so you ring your friend. Sorry, I'm so bad at interrupting.
I love this because it's so live, and everything I'm saying, I know women will be listening going, oh my goodness, I felt that. And like, it was a difficult phone call, and eventually we made the decision that I would go to a psychiatric hospital. And that's what I did. I went for 2 months. In Ireland, we don't have mother and baby units. There's nothing like that. So left my baby. My husband had to take like time off work. And the amazing thing is when I went in there, initially they were like, this is postnatal depression. It wasn't. So I was assessed by a multidisciplinary team. They're like, this isn't postnatal depression. And to anyone who's never been in a psychiatric hospital, there's this thing when you go in where everyone's like, what are you in here for? You know?
Yeah, why are you here?
What are you here for? And there was so many people that had like diagnosed mental illnesses that have had them their whole life. And they might have been in to readjust their meds or, you know, we're just going through a challenging time. And then there was this cohort of mothers. Now, I'm not just talking about mothers that had like small babies. I'm talking mothers at all stages of motherhood that were like, I don't know why I'm here. They can't diagnose me with anything. And I didn't know at the time, but I've since learned, and my whole take in it is, when we're going through matrescence, so have you heard of matrescence?
No.
Oh, buckle up.
Talk to me about it.
Matrescence is like adolescence. So just like when we were navigating adolescence, we were extremely vulnerable. It was tough, but kind of society held us. We were supported through it. It was expected to be hard.
Yeah, you know you're going to hit that stage. Oh, they're going through
Going through that. Same things happens in motherhood. When we become a mother, we go through matrescence. It can last up to 10 years. It happens each time you have a child. And when we're going through that, we're at our most vulnerable from a psychological perspective. So if you were someone that maybe experienced a little bit of anxiety prior to motherhood, you're going to possibly feel that tenfold. If you were someone like me, which we haven't even got onto yet, I'm autistic and have ADHD, and I didn't know. So when I became a mother, the wheels came off because the coping mechanisms
were not there for you.
Didn't know how to function. Didn't know how to function.
Because you had your ways before.
Yeah.
But then a baby was added to it, and
you can't control a baby.
No.
Right? So there was all of these mothers going, why are we here? And being discharged. And when we didn't have the why, and in my experience, that it was like, well, it must just be me. I'm just a terrible mother. Like, I'm the worst mother in the world. So I was discharged with no idea why I ended up there. Still really unwell.
After 2 months.
After 2 months. Like, I wasn't as unwell as I had been going in, but I wasn't well. And remember, at the time, and this is probably an Irish thing, nobody knew. My best friends knew, but it wasn't spoken of. So we had no support. And it's always something I talk about. If I had been physically ill, everyone would have known.
Oh, yeah, if your leg was hanging off, people go, oh, her leg's hanging off, she'll be all right soon.
But, it was sort of like, we don't talk about this because we don't talk about mental health. And, I'm like, why? If I developed cancer, that wouldn't have been my fault. It wasn't my fault that I struggled with my mental health. It had nothing to do with me. It to do with, remember I talked about motherhood?
Yeah.
It had to do with where I entered the tank of motherhood. And we had to leave our life in Dublin. At the time, that's where we lived. We did an amazing life. I was at the peak of my marketing career. We had to move back to my hometown, which I love that we live there now. But it's not where I thought I would be. And it took me 3 years to rebuild my life. I was in a really bad place. And it was because of that experience, I was navigating my second miscarriage. And again, so I already thought I was a terrible mother. So then when we made the tough decision to have another baby, I had 2 miscarriages.
How did you prepare to have another baby then? When you've been through all of that?
I made the decision because I literally loved Leo so much. I wanted to give him a sibling. Yeah. And I suppose my husband and I made that decision going, look, if we take a long-term view, it'll be okay. If it happens again, at least we now know where to get the support. It won't hit us like a train.
Yeah, I was going to say, you sort of done it.
We've done it. Yeah, we'll be okay. We'll go through it again. And it was a hard decision. And I was terrified even making the decision to have that child, and had him. Eventually got pregnant with little Alex, and we had him. And I was doing all the work to prepare, as I call it with my clients, my postpartum parachute, like all of the things you can do to navigate postpartum. And what hit? COVID.
Yeah. And we couldn't prepare for that, could we?
That hit. And I remember just having a moment of, and I'm not saying mental health is a choice. It's absolutely not. But I just got a rage where I was like, I'm not going back there again. I'm not feeling like that again. I need to do something for me. And so I was like, ooh, what will I do? Maybe I will finish my master's in psychology. And then I was like, no, I don't have it in me to do that. So I was like, what's this life coaching thing? I'll just do that. So I stopped looking for the perfect step and just started studied that. And I was like,
we did that in COVID?
Did that during COVID, yeah. And with the small baby, and was all remote, was able to do it. And I thought, oh, maybe I could use this to support mothers. And everyone was like, that's not a thing. Like you go into the corporate world and you do executive coaching. I'm like, no, like maybe I'll do this with mothers and help them navigate.
They need it the most.
So I set it up, and everything in my life, people were like, that's not a thing. Maybe it's my autistic brain going, well, it is now.
I've created a thing.
Yeah. So set it up, literally set up Mind Mommy coaching. And with my marketing background, it was a change because I'd no strategy. I didn't know what I was doing. I just set up a page, and I started being blatantly honest about motherhood. And the women just started coming, and I thought I was the only one. I thought there was something wrong with me. But yet I hid my story for a year or two because everyone in the industry was like, nobody will take you seriously, Laura. Like, you won't be credible as an expert if you share that you struggled with your mental health. And I was terrified until it got to a point where I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm helping mothers who are struggling with their mental health. Like, I need to share this. How can I not be honest? Why can't I be honest? So I shared it, and literally women were like, oh my God, like I was 1 or 2 steps away from being in a psychiatric hospital.
Yeah.
Like I was almost there. So I kept going, and then it led me to setting up the podcast Mumfessions. And the reason I set that up is I was so fed up of telling mums, you're not the only one that feels like this. I hear this all the time. So I was like, how can I convince them? I will literally set up a podcast where mums send in their voice note of their mumfession, like an experience or feeling they're not supposed to have. And then it's not me telling them anymore. And I've loved doing it because I have the privilege of hearing it every day. I know I'm not alone. I know how mothers really feel.
Yeah.
But most mothers don't.
No.
So that's my story in a nutshell. It was horrendous, and I probably haven't shared the half
We
of it.
got there in the end, didn't we?
We got there in the
I only
end.
asked her to introduce herself 20 minutes ago.